I am Sharon Holmes. Welcome to the She Shines podcast, where we are empowering you to embrace every facet of who you are, helping you to develop a beautiful balance in life, and encouraging women everywhere to shine. You can follow the She Shines podcast on iTunes, Google Play Music, YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you tune in to your favorite podcasts. Get in on the conversation. Join the sisterhood at facebook.com/groups/She Shines podcast. So get ready. The She Shines podcast starts right now. Welcome to season 3. I am so glad to be back with my Shine Squad. I have missed y'all over the past month. Did y'all miss me? I hope you did. Can you believe it's been a whole month? And let me tell you, that month was kind of what the doctor ordered, at least for me. Because as you know, I've talked about it before, I'm in school again, doing a master's degree in marriage, couples, and family counseling. And it's a 3-year program. So fortunately, my husband was awesome enough to allow me to go full time. But even full time, it's like 3 years. So I started in the summer of 17. And now I can kind of start to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And the break that the podcast took happened to be right at the end of the summer semester. So I was able to kind of take some of that time and finish up the major projects that I needed to finish in order to end that semester strong. And I figured out something in my last week of school. It is that I am too old for pulling all-nighters, y'all. Like, I did it in undergrad when I was like 22 years old, 19 years old. You know, I did all that. You pull an all-nighter, you do that paper in 1 or 2 days. You jump up at 9 a.m. the next morning so you can make your 10 o'clock class fine. And it all worked out perfectly. But that was 20 years ago. Let me tell you, I tried that thing about 2 weeks ago, and I was like a zombie. I was walking dead. I had to end up pulling a couple of all-nighters to get a major project done, and it worked out fine. I mean, in the end, you know, but I don't know what happened. I think I was trying to redo some assignments that I needed to redo, and it kind of pushed me off my schedule. And it was just not at all like what had happened in undergrad. Because in undergrad, my procrastination game was strong. Now it's just like, you know what? If it's not in the calendar, it don't happen. And let's just get it done on time. Because I really ain't got time to be going back and repeating stuff. So that was like my last week of school. But it all paid off. Summer grades are in. And I got all A's. Praise Jesus for that. And now I'm ready to begin the fall semester strong. Well, actually, I already started the fall semester. Like, we really didn't have that much time out. But just having that month to kind of rest myself, refocus myself, and get ready to go back to school was even a huge, huge help. And I also got to spend a full week, 7 days with the love of my life. Like, my heart still skips a beat just thinking about being around my husband. I love this guy. And more importantly than just loving him, I like him. And I got to spend like 7 days just totally unplugged, where we gave each other our undivided attention. About day 6, I'm looking at him going, "You're not tired of staring at me yet? You're not tired of looking in my face yet?" We would just chill, just totally unplugged from everything. No work, no obligations, just being together. And I really didn't realize how much I needed that until I actually got it. And then I was like, oh my God, you know, after a couple of days of just resting. And I was talking to some friends about this. We were talking about marrying guys that are either a lot older or a lot younger than you. And so one of my friends joked, and she goes, the good thing about being married to a guy that's your age is when you're ready to take a nap, he's ready to take a nap. And so over my break, My husband gave me a couple of days to just kind of rest and recuperate from everything I had been doing. And at the same time, he had a chance to do the same because like my husband works like 6 jobs, like he's always working. And so we had that couple of days to just rest and relax. And I could think better. On about day 3, my brain was like new, like it was working right the way it should have been working all the time. And I didn't realize, that I had just been really exhausted and working off of fumes. And sometimes that happens. I had been on straight autopilot for I don't know how long, but getting to unplug during our downtime from the podcast and actually spend time with my husband was so worth it, because at the end of the day, that's the one I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. So can't afford to mess that up. So it has been a great break. And while it has been, I have to say I miss the squad. Like, I'm ready to come back with you guys. I'm ready to talk. I'm ready to see what my girlfriends are into. And so after a whole month, I'm back in the saddle. And you know what? I'm starting this season off by celebrating 1 year since we released our very first episode. Like, the very first episode was September 6th, 2018. So 1 year. And that is a major milestone for me because, okay, let me just be transparent. I'm self-funded. And so to be able to continue to do a show in excellence for a year, being self-funded and largely a one-woman operation, just trying to get it done, I'm pretty proud of what we've been able to accomplish. I'm pretty proud of the conversations that we've been able to have. And I have to tell you, I'm totally overjoyed by the response that you guys have been giving and the comments you've been making and the ways that you've been telling me that you have grown. And guess what? The ways that you have been growing me in just this 1 year. So I'm looking forward to what this season is able to offer. I'm looking forward to pushing the envelope, expanding and growing. And I'm excited about all the new conversations that I know we're going to have. In fact, you know what? I'm going to ask for your help. Even right now, if you know someone that you want me to have on the show, if you know someone that you want me to talk to in season 3 or season 4, why don't you go to the FB page or on the website and submit their name? If you have their contact information, that's wonderful too. If not, hey, I'm a schoolgirl, so I'm pretty good at research. And I want to have those conversations. I would love to be able to open up those lines of communication and introduce some new topics that we want to talk about, as well as introduce us to some people that we definitely should know. So that's what I'm hoping to happen in season 3. Let me just stop and just kind of get back on because I kind of got a little sidetracked here, as it happens sometimes. Today, I'm really supposed to be talking about something that hit me while I was off on, let me call it sabbatical. I want to talk briefly about something that was on my mind during my time off. I had time actually to go on social media. Well, for other than work stuff. And so I went on social media and I saw a post where a guy was praising his wife or his girlfriend. And he was saying that she was 9 months pregnant and she had worked all the way up until the day she had the baby, and how she was holding down the house. She was holding him down, the whole 9 yards. And he was saying how strong, of a woman that she was. And I looked at it and I thought, good for her. But then I also thought she must be really exhausted, because after 2 or 3 days, then I had some rest and realized how exhausted I was. And I'm thinking, yeah, she has got to be exhausted to try to have to hold all that stuff down. And then later on that week, I was watching episodes of Black Love. I don't know how I slept on that documentary for so long, but it is now like one of my favorite things to watch. But I was watching Black Love, and there was a couple there, and they were talking about the ups and downs that their marriage had been through in regard to losing their son. So they had one child, and the child got to be, I want to say he was 20, and the child died from a heart defect or something like that they didn't even know he had. So the child died. That, of course, takes your marriage through some turns. And so when they were talking about it, the husband was saying how, that his wife was so strong. And I was able to look at her and see that she was still in pain. It was obvious, and I would imagine that would be true if you lost a child, no matter if it was your only one or not. And so he was talking about her and how their marriage had survived the things that they had gone through. And he even mentioned how she had some sickness. I think it was cancer. And she had a brain tumor and had brain surgery and all these things. And after all of the things that he talked about that she had been through physically, he said, we don't wear our problems on our sleeves, because my wife's a strong woman. I'm thinking in my mind, in other words, he's saying, let's not really dwell on that because I know she's strong enough to handle it. And then in another clip, the wife started talking, and she was talking about her sickness and the things she had been through. And she was saying that one day she was lying in bed and she was wondering how she would gather the strength to even just get out of bed. It was like she didn't have a choice because she could not bring herself to explain to her family or to let them know that she simply had no strength to get up. And so you know what she did? She got up. And in that moment when I'm watching her, my heart broke. My heart shattered, not just for her, but for all of us, because I began to think of all that we do as women. And many times I've talked to other women about the same thing, about the expectations that we place on ourselves. We expect ourselves to be able to do all of these things. But after listening to that couple on Black Love and seeing some of the posts that we see on social media, I realized that it's not just the expectations that we place on ourselves, but it's what's come to be expected of us, from our husbands or boyfriends, from our children, from our parents, from our jobs, our churches, or whatever the source. It's not that they intentionally want to put pressure on us. They're actually praising us. And I believe that the husband was actually praising his wife and so thankful that she had the fortitude to make it through what she had gone through. But there's an expectation, not just from us, but from others, that we will rise to the occasion. And women, especially Black women, are expected to just pick up the ball and run with it. We have to be the ones to fill in that void that's left by our brothers who have been killed or incarcerated, or for those who just decided not to step up for whatever reason. We have had to take on this leadership role in a way that no other race of women has had to do. And I know that that's in part because of the systemic effects of racism, but we've had to step into that leadership role that is generally taken on by males in other cultures. And as Black women, we're really kind of not allowed to experience burnout. If we do, then it gets labeled. Most of the time it's something else. It gets labeled as you being lazy. It gets labeled as being unable to cope with life. Like, this is life. Why can't you do life? And sometimes we're looked at as being mentally or emotionally weak. Like, it's a whole different conversation, the misdiagnosis that goes on in the Black community as far as mental health, and then the stigma that comes along with getting mental help. So that's a whole different conversation. But as Black women, we're not really allowed to experience that burnout. We're expected to kind of take charge and make things happen. And I know that it's not something that we can control. Unfortunately, most of it is just a byproduct of being born Black. I mean, I'm not saying that other women besides women of color are the only ones who experience this expectation to be strong at all times, but it just happens a little more frequently in cultures of color because of the effects of racism and other things that have kind of displaced our men in certain areas. And so then we have to step up and we have to keep things going. Now, don't get me wrong. There is nothing wrong with being a strong Black woman. I myself consider myself to be a strong Black woman. At the end of the day, there's a lot to be said about taking lemons and making lemonade. It is admirable that we can take a little bit and make some big things happen with it. And I was listening to Miles Monroe, like the world lost a giant when they lost this guy. But he was saying that women are incubators. He says whatever you give to a woman, she grows it, she multiplies it, and she gives it back to you in greater measure. So if you give her a house, then she makes a home. If you give her a sperm, she makes a baby. He says if you give her a hard time, then you may not want to come home. She's going to multiply that thing and make you wish you were somewhere else, because women are expected. They're expected to be strong. That's what they do. They multiply. They grow whatever it is that they're given. And so the expectation is that they can handle whatever has been handed to them. So being a strong woman is a wonderful thing. However, the image of it, the illusion of strength, is what is harmful to us, because sometimes it paints us into a corner, because the image of strength does not account for the fact that strong women get tired too. Think about all the things you do in the run of a week. Now, I don't care if you're a stay-at-home mom. I don't care if you're working 70 or 80 hours a week. I don't care if you're a student. I don't care if you're unemployed. Think about all the things you do in the run of a week. Even if you are strong, you do enough to make yourself tired in the run of a week. I think most women do. And the image does not account for the fact that we simply get drained and we get tired. The image of strength does not account for those times when we just need to be taken care of. Most women do not have the luxury of even getting the flu. You know, if the kids get sick, they're in bed for a week, mommy takes care of them. If the hubby gets sick, and sometimes our husbands, I don't know, I think getting sick activates that little boy inside, and they're in bed for at least a few days, and like, you got to take care of them, right? And I don't mind doing that. I love my husband. I love taking care of him. But if the woman of the household gets sick, you know, that's when you see women cooking with masks on. Like, what? Why? Like, why are we doing this? But it's because we don't have the luxury many times of even taking the time to be ill, because there are so many other people who, like the husband on Black Love, are depending on us to get out of bed. And so the image of strength does not take into account that there are times when we need downtime and we need to be taken care of. The image of strength, now the image of it, the illusion of it, sometimes makes us do more than we're actually capable of doing, and actually more than we're comfortable with doing. Like, we feel like we should be able to handle it all because we see everybody else doing it and it looks like they're getting through it. So what's wrong with me? Why can't I keep up? And it really becomes hard then for us to reach out for help when it looks like everybody else is balancing it, you know, successfully. And so the image of being strong, now not actually being strong, but the image of being strong is killing us. We are taking time to do everything and care for everything and everybody except for us. And I was thinking, you know, while I had some downtime to like really just stop my brain from the rat race, I was thinking like, we've got to find a way to turn this thing around, you know? The only way I could think of to try to make at least incremental change is to just try to let go some of the image of what we think it looks like to be a strong woman. Did you know that strong women can be strong and cry at the same time? Seems like an oxymoron. Like, I grew up in a household with a very strong mother. My dad was in the home. He was wonderful, an awesome guy. My dad went to work, you know, all week long. My mother was the caretaker. And I never saw my mother never cried. Us growing up, she never cried. I had a sister who passed away when she was 21 years old. My mom never cried, never saw her cry at the funeral. I never saw her cry when family was visiting us and everybody else was falling apart. Never saw my mother cry. Unfortunately, I had the experience of seeing my brother pass away at age 41, and he, the illness that he had caused him to bleed from every open orifice of his body, like from his eyes. And my mom stood there and I looked at her. I never saw a tear fall. And I couldn't understand. The only way I could explain it is that she was a strong woman. And so I began to say, like, Mama's the strongest woman I know, you know, and I took that and somehow it morphed in my head that tears were a sign of weakness. And so at all costs, you don't cry because that shows weakness. And I'm sure that's not what my mother was trying to convey. But as I became an adult, and especially after I crossed that 40-yard line, I began to think about the amount of pressure that must have been on my mom to simply be strong for her children, not fall apart when she knew that all of us, she gave us the gift of being able to be weak because she was the one who took on the role of being strong. And I think that that was so unfair to her, something that she probably didn't even know she didn't have to do. But that's what happens when we look at the image of strength and not really what strength is. You can be a strong woman and cry at the same time. You can be a strong woman and need help, even something as simple as public assistance. There's a whole stigma that goes along with that when you're a Black woman who needs assistance, There's this whole welfare queen thing that has been perpetuated. And so sometimes, we can't even ask for help when we need it. But I feel like this: if you need help, you just need help from whatever that source is. And being strong sometimes, unfortunately, causes us not to be able to ask for it or even to be able to accept help when it comes our way. And here's a big problem that I think many strong women face. They don't understand that we can be strong and we can also delegate, like the things that we don't have to have our fingers touch. We can delegate that to somebody else so that we can spend our time on things that we need to handle. And, I don't know if it's because either we have no one to delegate to or simply because we can't trust anyone else other than ourselves enough to delegate those duties to them. So seriously, which one is it? I really don't know. But I know that we, especially as Black women, as strong women of any race or culture, we have an issue with delegating responsibility. We feel like we have to do it because it's our responsibility. And I'm thinking, in order to turn the tide on this, we should have somewhere, or we should have some time that we can just be real, for real, where we can just be ourselves. And I think, I think every woman needs a diary, whether that's paper and pen. If that works for you, that's fine. I tend not to use paper and pen as much. I go through spurts where I journal, but I don't tend to do that all the time. But if that works for you, then do that. But it could also be, your diary could be one or two people that you can really, really talk to, like people that you can talk to and you don't have to worry about it coming back to you from another direction. Like when you tell them, it's like the bank, it's the vault. It's not going anywhere. That might be your diary, but someplace where we can kind of lay those thoughts and those feelings, those insecurities, those moments of being overwhelmed, we have some place to put that. Think about it for a second. If you had a diary, what would today's journal entry be for you? What is it that you really need to say right now? Would it be, "Dear diary, I'm tired"? Not tired. I'm tired. Take the R out. Tied. I'm tired because I feel like I'm in a rat race. I feel like a hamster on a wheel. I've been doing so much that I haven't had time to just stop. As a matter of fact, I don't know how to get off. If I wasn't doing this, if I wasn't this busy, what would I even do with myself? Sometimes we feel like that as women. And so we continue to go on and on and on doing the same thing. Would your journal entry say, "Dear diary, I confess, I really don't know what to do"? I was talking to a young lady who was raised by a single mom, and she said that she watched her mom her whole life just get up and make it happen every single day. So if that's all you've seen, then that's what you expect from yourself. That's what you think other people expect from you. Now, what are you supposed to do when you saw someone who seemed like they had it all figured out, and now you find yourself with a bag full of questions? "Dear diary, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to handle this." Would it be, "Dear diary, I have no more to give"? One of my favorite episodes of The Cosby Show, that's why I'm laughing, is because that's what Claire did. I love Claire Huxtable. That's what I wanted to be when I grew up. But she's exhausted, and she goes, Cliff, I have no more to give. And so he sends her on vacation. But sometimes that's our diary journal entry. We have no more to give. We are emotionally exhausted, totally depleted. And we don't have a place to lay that burden because we don't have a place to share the things that we feel make us weak. That's why I'm doing this episode, Diary of a Strong Black Woman, because even strong women need some place to lay their stuff, you know? And I was thinking, well, what can I do? I know, I can't give everybody a group hug, I don't see you, you hear me, you allow me, you're gracious enough to allow me to come into your homes or your cars or wherever you listen, but I can't meet every person personally. But I thought about this. The podcast has a private group, so why not let that be our diary for today? So I want to invite you to go to the FB group and just comment. It doesn't have to be something long and drawn out. It can just be one sentence, and that one sentence might be a game changer for you. It might be the thing that allows you to free yourself and just understand that the illusion of strength and strength are two different things. Just get it off your chest. Dear diary, I'm confused. Dear diary, I'm over it. Dear diary, things are going great, but I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. Because we do that too as women. When things are going well, we're happy, but then we feel like they're going too well. So then we get scared because something must be about to happen to mess this up. But everybody, I think, needs that place where they can just be transparent for a second, drop the illusion, drop the facade of strength, and just be yourself. So I encourage you to find that place, that person, that thing, whatever it is that allows you to woosah, If it is just placing that one sentence in the FB group and letting your sisters rally around you, letting the squad hold you up, that's what we're here for. Listen, I got a boogie. I feel like I've been talking a lot today. Maybe it's because I missed you guys so much. I'm trying to get it all in because I want to hear back from you. But this concludes our very first episode of season 3. Till next time, remember this. You may be the strongest woman that you know, but the truth is, you really don't have to be. See you next time. You have been listening to the She Shines podcast, where we are empowering you to embrace every facet of who you are, helping you to develop a beautiful balance in life, and encouraging women everywhere to shine. If you are a woman who shines and you want to see someone else shine too, join the sisterhood at facebook.com/groups/She Shines podcast, and you can share the shine. To get instant updates on our podcast, subscribe on iTunes, Google Play Music, YouTube, or Spotify. I'm your host, Sharon Holmes. Until next time, shine on.